Nostalgia, a word that us photographers and filmmakers have been using to get a more cinematic film-like image. An image with beautiful lens flares, blooming highlights, not clinically sharp, and with just good character. And that's what we're talking about today, the HELIOS 44 58mm f2 that I actually basically picked up for free on Facebook Marketplace, but more on that story later. This lens is super popular for filmmakers, and even more so since the new Batman used it in a couple of scenes. But I really want to test out this lens not only for video, but for some nice portrait photography. So I brought this $15 adapter from Amazon, attached it to my Sony A7 IV and my Sony A6600, and went out for a portrait photography shoot, and this is what we got. So you guys might not know why this particular lens is so popular, and that's because it has this really unique swirly bokeh effect. Now, this doesn't happen in every situation and in all bokeh. The best way that I found to find this effect was to find some nice backlit trees and shoot the model backlit, and then you get this really unique looking bokeh. Not only does this lens have really unique bokeh, but it also has very cool lens flares. Now you got to be careful to look out for complete washout, which can happen when you're shooting at around f2, but if you stop the lens down to around f4, f5.6, you can eliminate some of this. But personally, I found the best way to get the best lens flares was around f2.8. This also gives you a sharper and more contrasty image. We're going to talk about sharpness and contrast very shortly. So this was actually my first time shooting with a manual lens. I definitely went out the day before and got a little bit of practice, so I didn't completely suck. And I used Narrative Select to cull my photos, and I actually got a score of 10 in some of my photos, but most of them were around 8 to 9. If you guys haven't used Narrative Select, it gives you a score on how well the eye is in focus, and also if the eye is open or not. They have a free version, it's not sponsored. I'll just leave a link down below because I really enjoy using Narrative Select. The way that I managed to do this was I used two things on my Sony A7 IV, and that was focus peaking and focus magnifier. Focus peaking gives you like an overall what's in focus, but it won't really show if the eye is in focus. It will give you like the front of the face and the hair is in focus. So the best way is to use a custom button set up for focus zoom. Now I would use the custom focus zoom. I would get the focus kind of where I wanted to, and then I would just walk towards or away from the model until I found that perfect focus. And for video, I basically just use the focus peaking. That's what it's kind of designed for, and I didn't actually turn the focus ring too much because this focus ring is super stiff, which is nice for videographers. If you don't have like a little mini follow focus, you end up twisting the camera. It is 58mm, so it will make your footage look super unstable. Coming into the build of this lens, it is a fully manual metal build, and it just feels and looks amazing. It has this clickable aperture ring. You can actually declick that for video work if you pull it apart and manually do it if you want to. And like I said before, it has a super stiff focus pull, even so stiff that sometimes when it's screwed onto this adapter, sometimes it can unscrew itself, so it doesn't really have any locks. Very odd design how they used to have screw-on mounts, but yeah, it just basically just screws on, and if you pull too hard, you can unscrew the mount. So before I went out for this shoot, I did a lot of research on YouTube, and I found out that the best sharpness and contrast was around 2.8, so I kind of trusted that. So when I went out shooting, I shot most of these images around the 2.8 for photo and video. A couple of them are shot at f2, and you can definitely notice the difference between the two. But I wanted to test out this for myself, so I ran downstairs, shot bricks from f8 all the way up to f16, and you can definitely see the difference between f2 and f2.8 in terms of contrast and center sharpness. f2 is still pretty good, but definitely better at 2.8, definitely for those colors. That you do get nice colors coming out at 2.8. It's a little bit washed out at f2. And when you get up to about f10, f11, then the sharpness and the contrast starts fading off due to diffraction. So this lens is definitely best for around 2.8 to about f8. That's basically where I use most of this lens. You actually still get plenty of bokeh at 2.8, so don't be worried about that because it is a 58mm. Quickly guys, if you're liking this video, make sure you hit that like button. It's free to do and it really helps out me and this channel and also this video. And while you're down there guys, if you do want to consider subscribing, feel free to. Back to the video. So if you remember from the start of this video how I said I basically picked up this lens for free, that's because I brought this for $130 and I got a Pentax ES2, I got 2 rolls of film, I got a flash, I got a Super Takuma 55mm 1.8, a Tasman 135mm f2, and also the Helios 44 58mm f2. Now this is all worth around $150 to $200 excluding the Helios 44, so I could actually make a profit around like 30 to like 70 bucks while keeping this lens. That's pretty good. Now if you guys don't want to hustle like the way I did, you can jump on eBay or Facebook Marketplace and these lenses go for about $50 to $100 US, and then you can just pick up this adapter. I got the one from Newer, it was 15 bucks. It was the cheaper and the most simple one and it looks nice. They can go up to about $30 depending on which ones you guys want to buy, better quality, better brands. I'll leave 3 different types that you can buy down linked below, but I really recommend this one. Like it worked really well for me. And finally, in terms of what lens you should buy. Now this lens was one of the most mass-produced lenses coming out of Russia. It is a Russian lens, which is super surprising. They based it off the Carl Zeiss Batis, which is a super expensive lens, and they did it better. So they produce a lot of these, but there is 2 versions that are recommended to be the best. The most popular is the Dash 2, and also the one that I have is the Dash M. Now the Dash M is sharper, but it has that less swirly bokeh, while the Dash 2 is a little bit more softer and has more pronounced swirly bokeh. And also you just to make sure that you get the right one with the right marking. That will determine what factory it was made in. The ones with this marking had the most consistent lenses and the most quality control. So to put that simply, you want to buy the one that is a Helios 44M or a 44-2 with this marking, and you can't go wrong. They're pretty consistent and they're super sharp. The other ones made in different factories and the later or earlier versions are still great, but these are the ones that are most popular and they're probably going to be worth the most in a later date. So I am a bit addicted to vintage lenses. I have this massive plan on building a big kit. I want to do a portrait video shoot with this. I'm definitely going to set up a external monitor and a small rig follow focus for my portrait video, just so I can nail the focus better and also get stable shots while pulling focus. If you guys have any recommendations for other vintage lenses, let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see you next time.